everyone, and welcome to my channel, Lil Modern Mama. First, if you like the videos that we post here, definitely subscribe and hit the alerts button so you get alerted every time we make a video. Today we are actually going to be talking about our miscarriage story. So if you're watching this, you've probably either gone through one, are going through one, or know some friends or family members who might be going through one. The purpose of this video is one, to share our story, our journey, what we went through, and also to give a little bit of education and help out. I know when we were going through this process ourselves, we didn't have a lot of knowledge of what that was going to look like or how that was going to go, and so it was helpful to go back and utilize tools like YouTube and Pinterest and other social media outlets to find out information on how to go through it, what to go through, and what to expect. So I hope this video is helpful for anyone who might be going through this kind of process right now. So I wanted to start a little bit with kind of our backstory. We have one child, Reagan, who you can hear in the background currently, and she is about 15 months old. And it took us a little over 5 years to conceive Reagan. We had unexplained infertility, so all of the tests showed that we should be perfectly fertile, but for some reason we weren't able to conceive a child, and it took a long time and a lot of big fat negatives that we took, and hoping and a lot of prayers. So finally we eventually conceived Reagan in August of 2019 and had her in May of 2020, and she's an absolute blessing. But because of that, because we took so long to conceive Reagan, we decided that we didn't want to wait for a long time to have our second baby. So I think my cycle started back up in November of 2020, and immediately we just went ahead and started trying again. It took about 6 months, and finally in May, just after Reagan's birthday, we had success. And I was so excited. I took the test on my own, and I didn't tell my husband, and I had a huge surprise planned. I called a girlfriend to have her order something off Amazon for me, because my husband and I share an Amazon account, so if I order something, he'll see it. But it was a little t-shirt for Reagan that said Big Sister. And it was just, Father's Day was just around the corner, so I decided to give him an early Father's Day present, and I had her walk out with her little Big Sister shirt on and the hat that I had bought him for Father's Day, and I had her give him the hat, and he was so surprised and excited about the hat he didn't notice the shirt. And then finally I said, Reagan has something else to say, and he looks at her shirt and he's like, Big Sister, oh my gosh. I think he actually said, holy shit. So it was just very exciting for us, and I was excited for sure, but I know my husband was super excited too. And I think that's something I want to talk about here too, is that when we're going through this process, a lot of times husbands get left out of the information that's given. A lot of women are seeking knowledge and understanding of what their body is going to go through, what their heart is going to go through, what their mind is going to go through. And we forget that there's dads on the other side of this, or spouses on the other side, that are going through the same process, just without the physical of it. So we have to remember that they're going to be hurting during this process too, and they might not know or understand how to help us. My husband was so excited to tell everybody about this pregnancy, and we had decided we were going to wait for a little while. We waited until we were about 6 weeks along before we told our families, and we had a wedding to go to that weekend, and it came out at the wedding that I was pregnant, and so my husband told a lot of people at the wedding that we were pregnant, and they were all close friends, which was great to know. And we were just excited. But I did have this feeling in the back of my mind saying that we should wait and we shouldn't tell more people. We hadn't gone to our first doctor's appointment yet, and we had that scheduled for about 8.5 weeks in. And so when that time came and we had that first ultrasound scheduled, we went in at 8.5 weeks, and the result of that was we could see the heartbeat. The heartbeat was really slow, but the baby hadn't grown past 6 weeks 1 day. And they were concerned that that baby might not continue to grow, so they prepped me at that appointment, letting me know that this was probably going to end in miscarriage and I should be prepared, and that's okay. And once that started, that we would have more conversations after that, and we scheduled another ultrasound for a week out. It was a week and a few days. So by the time I made it to that next ultrasound, I had started bleeding, but it wasn't a lot of blood. It was just a little bit, like you would have spotting maybe your first day of your cycle. They did the ultrasound and there was no heartbeat. The baby had not grown any in that week and a half. And it was obvious that my body hadn't really recognized yet that it was time to miscarry. And they gave me a couple of options. One of the options was misoprostol, which is a drug that you insert usually vaginally, and that causes your body to go ahead and release everything. They use it in trying to induce labor. And it's basically what it's doing is inducing labor in you. And this is an early miscarriage. The baby's still very, very quite small. And so there was that option. There was also the D&C, which is where they go in and they physically remove the uterine lining and everything, and they clean you out basically, and everything comes out all at once. And that one's more of like a heavier surgery. You go under anesthesia. There's a lot more that can happen during that. And so it's kind of a last option. And the other option was just to go home and let nature take its course and let it happen. But that could be a long time that you're waiting for that. And since I hadn't been bleeding very much, we opted for the misoprostol. And the prescription for that was 4 tablets vaginally every about 6 to 8 hours, I believe, and they gave me 3 rounds of it. And so I picked it up in the evening, and I decided that I wanted to wait because I understood that if you start taking it, you could start bleeding pretty heavily, pretty quickly. So I didn't want to do that in the middle of the night and have to be up going to the bathroom every few minutes in the middle of the night. That didn't seem like the right way to go, so I waited until morning. I still hadn't started bleeding heavily myself on my own, so I waited, and right around like 9 o'clock in the morning, I started with the first round, and that first round, it took about a half hour or so, and that actually started to release things. And one of the things they tell you to watch out for when you do take the miso is that you don't want to be bleeding so heavily that it's like you turned on the faucet of the sink. You want to, it should be coming out gradually, but much heavier than your normal period. And that's what it was for me. So I did that, and I was wearing my husband calls them the magic underwear. They were my postpartum panties, but they're there to kind of just catch everything, because you can't use a tampon during this time either because it can cause infection. So those are like the always panties that you can get for incontinence, and they work great. They're good period panties if you need to wear a period panty and don't like wearing pads. They're amazing. But I put those on, and I have a 1-year-old, so I was watching her, and I started having severe cramping, cramping similar to what you would have when you're actually going into labor, because that's what your body is doing when it's releasing the baby, is going into labor, and you're gonna have labor pains, you're gonna have labor cramping. It could be severe. It just depends on what your pain threshold is. Some women I've talked to have had really, really, really bad ones that are almost debilitating, and they want to go to the hospital really bad. And other women, like myself, we have intense ones and bad ones, and it hurts and you want to cry, but you don't, because you're just hanging out and you're making it happen. You're getting through it. And that's what it was for me. And that lasted for probably a good 24 hours of heavy, intense cramping and bleeding. And I did take all 3 sets of the misoprostol, and by the end of that, I had gone back to what a normal period should be, and that lasted for about 7 days of bleeding. So that kind of concludes everything that we went through on the physical side. What a lot of people don't talk about is the emotional side. So emotionally, as you're going through this process, as you've conceived a child, you know that you've conceived, you've seen this baby growing inside you, you know there's someone in there, you start as a woman to get connected to that. And we have a lot more emotion in the connection than our husbands do, because our husbands aren't physically growing this baby. A lot of times husbands don't feel emotionally connected yet. And it takes time for that. It takes them going to ultrasound, is seeing the baby as it's growing, and they start to become attached then. And then once a man holds their child for the first time, they really become connected then. So it's important to keep your husbands along on the journey with you as you go to doctor's appointments, because that's going to help them as they connect with their child. So for me and for my husband, when we knew that we were losing the baby, he was there and he was a part of the conversation, but I wasn't able to communicate properly what I was feeling. So I was feeling pain and anguish and sorrow and grief, and I really just wanted to crawl into a hole and like collapse, but I couldn't, because I have a 1-year-old. I couldn't physically get up and do the dishes and take out the garbage and do the laundry. And I know those were things that, we have a small space. My husband wanted those things to get done, and he was busy with work and doing other things and couldn't accomplish that either. And so he had asked me to do some of those things, not knowing that I was going through physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain, and I couldn't physically get up to go do those things. Something that guys don't really think about is when you're going through this and you've already taken the miso and you're working on it, every time you get up, you release. And so you can't really be moving around a lot. You have to sit and be in one spot, whether that's on the couch with a towel under you, at the toilet, wherever it is that you feel most comfortable, that's where you should be. And you shouldn't be alone either. One of the conversations my husband and I had was that I felt alone even though he was in the room, because something I don't think people know is that you can be in the room but not with somebody. And it's two different things, being in the room and being in someone's moment. If you're sitting next to them, holding their hand, talking to them, talking them through what's going on, or even just sitting next to them, holding their hand, you're being there for them. But if you're just in the room on the other side of the room and you've got your headphones on, you're working, you're busy doing stuff, that's not being there for somebody. And we had to have some long conversations about that, because while he wasn't going to the office to go to work or going out of the house to go to work, he wasn't actually a part of what I was going through, and he wasn't feeling what I was feeling, and I wasn't sharing that with him, which is my fault. I like to hide things. I like to bury my emotions. And ladies, if you're watching this and you're going through this, don't bury your emotions for your husband. Tell them what you're feeling. Tell them what you need. Husbands, if you're watching this, and I hope you are, know that your wife, your spouse, your girlfriend, whoever it is, they are hurting on so many levels, and they might not be able to tell you that. And if they tell you, no, I'm fine, that's not true. They are not fine. Go ahead and do extra things. Maybe it's taking an extra hour out of your day to do the dishes and the laundry. Maybe you order in food instead of making food. Maybe you have someone come and watch the baby for a couple of hours and take them around the block. Any of those things are going to be helpful. Ladies, if you're doing this on your own, call friends, call family, have a mother come help you. Have another person that you have in your life. Maybe it's from your church, maybe it's from a social group. Come and spend time with you while you're in this moment, because you're going through postpartum at this time. And postpartum is a very, very large part of why people get depressed after a miscarriage. You've gone through the emotions, you've gone through the physicality of having a baby, and now you're going through the mentality of having a baby but not able to bring that baby home. And that's important to know. And I especially, I want to tell dads this, because dads don't usually understand what it is that their wife is going through, how they're feeling in that moment. So I think those are all really important things to talk about and to understand when someone's going through a miscarriage. The last thing that I want to cover really is, what are the next steps? What happens after? And you go through 7 days of bleeding, and then where do you go from here? How do you start trying again if that's something that's on the docket for you to try? For my husband and I, we know that it's hard for us to conceive, so we're not going to spend a lot of time waiting. It has been 4 weeks since the miscarriage, and I just started my cycle again. I'm on cycle day 4 now, and we're ready to start trying again. You're very fertile at this time. This is something where you've got a lot of chances. Your chances are higher, your fertility's higher. It's a good time to go ahead and try. Some people can't emotionally handle that. Maybe you want to wait 2 months. Maybe you want to wait 3 months. You have to wait at least 1 to let your body cleanse itself to make sure everything's good. But then after that, depending on your situation, and always talk to your doctor about this, then go ahead and start trying again. And you never know, that rainbow baby might be just around the corner. And hopefully in the next coming months, we'll be able to share that ours is. And we're so excited for that journey. And we're so sad for the loss that we had. And I know that for me, I didn't handle it the way that I could have. And if it ever does happen again, I know now how to handle it, what to do with myself physically and emotionally as we move forward on that. But I hope this video helps. If it does, please let me know in the comments below. If there's something that you have that you want me to add in, add that to the comments below. October is actually Baby Loss Awareness Month, and I will be doing a couple more videos around this during the month of October, so please stay tuned for more information and more knowledge. But this was just my first time talking about it openly and getting the information out there. So I really do hope that this video helped, and I really do hope that if you are going through this, if you are on this journey, please know that you are not alone. There are so many women out there that have gone through the same thing, so many couples out there that have gone through the same thing. Dads, if you're watching this video and you're going through this, please reach out to other dads in your friend circle. Find another guy who's gone through this and talk to them about it. Get that emotional connection, that help from someone who's been down this road. I would suggest talking to someone who you admire, whose lifestyle you admire, who treats their spouse the way that you would admire and you would treat your spouse, because those are the people who are going to think along the same lines as you. So anyway, I hope that helps. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk soon.